Greetings everyone, and welcome once again to the SFT AHT AMF Squaw Peak $1,000 Championship Final Match. This is Craig Spencer, as always, your tournament director and introducer to our players. So let's get to it. Our number 2 seed is representing the B division. He is bowling in his third Strikeforce Tour Arizona Handicap Tour event ever. So he's only bowled 3 times with us so far, and he's made 3 consecutive quarterfinals. So he's having a great start to his SFT AHT season. He started with us in the 2013 season. But this week is the first week that he's ever made the semifinals. This is the first week he's made it past the quarterfinals. Not only did he make it to the semifinals, but he won, and he's our B division champion. He said prior to this event, he told me personally that he really likes the short patterns. He feels like he can strike a lot more on the short patterns. He bowled plus 103 to qualify, plus 123 in the semis. He did lead the B division in the semifinal round. He bowled 247 with handicap to defeat Lynn Arthur in the first round of semis. He then had to bowl against Rick Williams. Rick was coming off of a huge game against Joey Collins, and he defeated Rick with a 248 game with handicap. And incredibly enough, our number 2 seed comes all the way from Lake Havasu City, and his name is Joe Claspell, and Joe will be getting 36 pins of handicap for this match. Joe Claspell's opponent and your number 1 seed is getting all of his first time achievements out of the way in one shot. He made his first quarterfinals appearance ever this weekend. He's also made his first semifinals appearance, and obviously since he's bowling in the final match, he's making his first final match appearance, all in one shot, and all while showing the power of the parlay, as we like to say. For those of you who don't know what that means, it means he's advanced all the way to where he's at now off of our economy parlay feature. The economy parlay feature basically allows you to bowl in a win a spot for a free entry. So you could pay $25 for the economy parlay. If you win that, you get a free $75 entry for one of our qualifying squads. And then with that free entry, you can try and qualify. And then if you advance, you're in the quarterfinals, you're guaranteed money back. And the only amount of money that you've had to invest is $25. So Joe's opponent, and the number 1 seed, has done that. He paid $25. He qualified on Saturday, or I should say he won the parlay on Saturday, then he qualified later on Saturday with a plus 99. He then bowled plus 42 to be the very last seed to make it into the semis. And then he had to go against Ron Gonzalez and Billy Pretlove. Billy Pretlove was looking for his first final match appearance. Ron Gonzalez has a title, and ironically enough, Ron actually has the current economy parlay record. He turned $25 into $1,000 at Brunswick via Linda Lanes early in our 2012 season. So it kind of made it a little interesting because our number 1 seed had to beat the current parlay record holder before he could get in a position to match Ron Gonzalez's record. So which now means that he is in position to potentially match that record. This means that not only does he have the title on the line, that he could potentially win $1,000, the big check, the pride, all the things that the players out here every weekend are striving for, but he also has the ability to tie our current parlay record. So without further ado, your A division titleist this weekend, your number 1 seed representing the lefties, Zach Simon, and Zach will be getting 21 pins of handicap for this match. Now that we know the 2 players that are squaring off, we always like to talk a little bit about the storylines with each player. First, Joe, your number 2 seed, is, as I said, from Lake Havasu City. Now, for the most part, that's about a 3.5-hour drive, depending on how fast you want to drive, of course. But he's shown a very large commitment to wanting to compete, wanting to experience different patterns, wanting to learn, wanting to get better, things like that. Joe took about a 5-year hiatus off and just recently picked up bowling again just a few months ago. So he's trying to knock the rust off. He's trying to come back from an injury. He's slowly getting his feet back under him. He's been spending a lot of time practicing, trying to work on his game and get better. And he's really developed a very powerful strike ball and a style that can generate area. So on a condition like this weekend's, where his style really matched up, it allowed him to kind of get left and really kind of hook the lane a little bit. It allowed him to really throw the strikes. Now, in his previous matches, he had some issues with spares, but he was able to throw enough strikes where the spares and the misses that he had with the spares didn't really come into play. So it'll be very interesting to see if that will come into play in this final match because Zach threw a lot of strikes in his previous semifinal match when he bowled 288 to win. So if the strikes come from Zach as they did before, Joe's going to need to make those spares to win this match, and it'll be very interesting to see if it comes down to that. Now, Zach's main storyline is the fact that he's trying to match the economy parlay record set by Ron Gonzalez. As I mentioned earlier, Ron has the economy parlay record. He paid $25 at Via Linda last year, walked out of the building with $1,000. Very awesome story, and Zach is looking to match that record. To make it even more interesting, he defeated Ron in his path to get to where he's at now, not just in qualifying, but in a match-play match. In the round of the semifinals, he defeated Ron. And Zach bowls a lot of the events and always bowls the parlay. To my memory, he's never bowled a qualifying entry. He always bowls the parlay. And a lot of people would, and a lot of people have, gotten discouraged with that approach in terms of they may say, you know what, it takes too much to make it worthwhile. It's very difficult to go the whole parlay round. So, you know, I'm just not even going to try the parlay, or I'm not going to bowl. And Zach, each event used his experience to get better and to get better. And it's finally paid off, and it shows that his hard work and dedication to it makes the economy parlay worthwhile as long as you're willing to continue to work hard at it. More importantly, the thing that Zach gained from the economy parlays that maybe he wasn't as successful on was the experience on the patterns and the experience with learning what type of mistakes he made during those events. Now, both of these players are making their first final match appearance and are looking for their first title. So you have to wonder, as I always say, how nerves are going to affect these players. We've seen many times before, for some players, the lights and the attention and the cameras and everyone watching. For some players, it brings about more focus. For others, it brings about more distraction. So there's no way to know, and we're going to find out. And the only way to find out is to get them on the lanes and get the match started. So since Zach was our #1 seed, he has elected for Joe to start the match on the left lane. So here we go. that wraps up the final match of this weekend's event. Joe Claspell defeated Zach Simon 247 with handicap to 177. The match wasn't very close. If you were to ask my opinion of the match, I really think it can be summarized in both players' third frame. You had Joe, who was getting the extra handicap. He threw his third strike for an early three-bagger and a very early lead, and you didn't really notice a lot out of him. He didn't really make a lot of noise or really run it out. He looked very calm and cool and focused, which is what you see a lot of the times, you know, at the higher level. If you're watching, you know, the PBA on TV, things like that, you know, most of the time they're pretty calm, cool, and collected, and they try to stay focused. Whereas in Zach's third frame, in the same exact frame, you saw him throw his first strike of the match. He kind of ran it off a little bit to the right there. He looked like he got a little amped, a little excited, understandably. But unfortunately, the very next shot afterwards, he got a little quick with it and left a 379. And I always have the theory when I've been personally bowling in tournaments and things like that, to always try and stay calm, cool, and collected, especially in a match play match where you only have 10 frames. It's a very short amount of time, and your emotional highs getting too high or your emotional lows getting too low sometimes can affect your rhythm, your ball speed, things like that. And there's no really way of knowing unless we ask Zach, but it would appear that that might have potentially happened there in the third and fourth frame with him. In the third frame, he kind of ran it off a little bit. The fourth frame, he got a little quick and opened. And then at that point, with the handicap difference as well as the early three-bagger by Joe, Zach was in a really tough spot to get back into the match, not only mentally, but in score-wise, he needed a lot of help. So I think the contrast between these two players' reaction in the third frame was very telling to how the situation impacted both players. Either way, you can't question their efforts at this point. Zach will be this weekend's real parlay success story, and this season so far, big parlay success story, as he turned $25 into $500 and really had an incredible run for getting all of his first-time accomplishments out of the way here at Squaw Peak. I'm sure will be a memory he'll have for quite a while. And the big winner, coming all the way from Lake Havasu City, will be taking home the $1,000 big check to his hometown. And bragging rights, and not to mention he's going to have a lead in the Player of the Year race as well, and all of that goes to Joe Claspell. So congratulations to you, Joe. Joe will also have a very good sized lead in the Rookie of the Year race. I believe he's most likely going to be ahead of Justin Harper, but as the 2012 Player of the Year once said last year, Lynn Arthur, when he had an early lead in his season points race, it is a long season. It is definitely a long season. There's a lot of events, so Justin is definitely not without a reach, or anybody else, even those that haven't even bowled are not out of reach. So should be exciting. The Player of the Year race will continue to keep going. Our next standard event will be at Cliff Castle Casino. And as always, thanks for watching. I look forward to seeing you all next time.